Keir Starmer now says he's the guy that's going to control our borders. The same Keir Starmer that decriminalised illegal immigration, has prioritised illegals over our own good people, has thrown them into hotels and generally prioritised them for housing as well, and wanted to make sure that anyone who spoke out against illegal immigration was called far right and put in prison. But now suddenly he's all for it. He also says that those arriving in our country should speak English. Maybe he could go to Birmingham or Bradford or Luton or Leicester or any other of his voting areas and say that, because none of them will understand a bloody word. Angela Rayner, her of the ginger growler, turned up at a function with King Charles dressed as an actual clown with actual Ronald McDonald shoes on. I don't know what it is with these Labour women, like the Democrats. They have to make themselves as ugly as possible, as if to excuse the fact that no man would ever want to go anywhere near.
What happens when Katie Hopkins grabs a mic and aims it at Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner? Oh, just the political equivalent of a flamethrower at a soggy papier-mâché statue. If you've ever wondered what it looks like when brutal honesty meets zero filter and a deep-seated allergy to nonsense, buckle up. Katie doesn't just roast, they're served extra crispy. Grab your popcorn, because this takedown makes Parliament look like a daycare squabble. Ready? This is savagery in HD.
Another Ukrainian bumboy arrested for firebombing Keir Starmer's home. These rent boys are going to appear at the Old Bailey on the 6th of June. They're expected to arrive in a rainbow-coloured police car, dressed in fetish gear and pup play, because that's how Keir likes it. And finally, Labour have cancelled their women's conference the day before their main conference, because men who have their cocks tucked into women's panties aren't going to be allowed to attend. So Labour have cancelled their women's conference because men can't.
Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner walking into British politics is like watching two confused tourists try to operate a roundabout. Only instead of a car crash, it's an entire country veering into a wall made of beige promises and budget slogans. Enter Katie Hopkins, the woman with a flamethrower tongue and zero chill, who took one look at this dynamic duo and said absolutely not.
Children that are in class sizes that are over 30 now.
Angela Rayner, are we talking about 50 children, 5,000 children, 5 million children? I mean, how many are we talking about?
It's a significant number. It's not 500 or 5,000. It's significant.
You've said that 3 times. Do you not think it would be an idea to have a sense of how many children we're talking about? You are the Shadow Education Secretary.
Yeah, well, I do have a sense of that, but I don't have the figures.
Could you give me the number then, please?
No, not. I'm not just going to pluck a number out of thin air.
But I can tell you that the number is significant. Shall I help you? I've got a number. Shall I give it to you?
Go on then, you give it me. Go on, right. If you've got it, you give it me. And it is a substantial number. Go for it.
Don't you think it's rather strange that it's left to the journalists, the media, to inform the Labour Party?
First up, Keir Starmer, the man who somehow manages to make a wet flannel look confrontational. His leadership strategy? Hover awkwardly between decisions like he's buffering in real time. One minute he's Mr. We'll fight for the working class, and the next he's speed-running policies that make Margaret Thatcher rise from her grave for a polite golf clap. If spineless leadership were an Olympic sport, Keir would have been knighted twice.
Minister, Nigel Farage has 5 MPs, you've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain? You went to a state school, your dad worked in a factory, your mum worked in the NHS, so why has a public school-educated former city trader got more in common with the Red Wall than you have?
He's got Nigel Farage living rent-free in his head, and just in case he wasn't absolutely sure, he's being told how unpopular he is.
The speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
And now people are just pointing out to him that he's not actually delivered on anything that he said he would when he got elected.
And Angela Rayner, bless her energy, is like someone tried to turn working class vibes into a personality and forgot to add substance. Her idea of powerful rhetoric is yelling generic slogans like she's auditioning for a reboot of The Apprentice but make it socialist cosplay. Together, they're a political buddy movie where both leads forget their lines and blame the sound guy. Katie Hopkins saw this mess and didn't even reach for tea. She poured gasoline and lit the match.
The effect of this is that it will blow apart the whole rotten structure that I've been talking about. This is not government of the people, by the people, for the people. Starmer represents government of the blob, by the blob, for the blob. And when it fails, it will be the blob that failed, not Britain.
It has been 3 years since the start of the war in Ukraine. Is Donald Trump appeasing Vladimir Putin?
Yes, in the conventional sense of the term, of course he is. But that's a term, actually, Stephen, which belongs to the old world.
She started with Starmer's magical disappearing backbone. This man changes his stance more than a weather vane in a hurricane. Free speech? Only if it doesn't offend a Guardian columnist. Immigration? He'd rather hug a fence than take a stand. Law and order? His idea of cracking down on crime is tweeting sad emojis after riots. Hopkins took one look and said, "Why bother leading a party when you're allergic to opinions?" But it's not just the policies, it's the energy. Keir Starmer gives off strong substitute teacher vibes, you know the one, overly serious, trying too hard to be liked, armed with a clipboard and zero charisma. Hopkins roasted him so hard he might need SPF 300 just to open the Daily Mail. Meanwhile, Rayner talks like she's leading a revolution but votes like she's protecting a committee seat. She's built an entire brand around speaking for the people, which is rich, coming from someone who treats every interview like it's a TikTok audition for who can shout Tories bad the loudest. Katie Hopkins called her out faster than Angela could reapply her lip gloss.
Morning, it's Keir here. My director of strategy, who's a right ginger, has said that I should explain our new policy on migration very simply. So before, we loved illegals. We couldn't get enough of illegals. Illegals, come, welcome. I helped bring them in. I put them in hotels. I also love a Rwandan. I love me a stubby Rwandan. In fact, I love all illegals because they are the ones that vote for us. So if you go to any of the Labour...
Let's talk about their dynamic, or better yet, their tragic sitcom spin-off that no one asked for but somehow got renewed by mistake. Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner are the political equivalent of a malfunctioning GPS. One keeps rerouting, the other keeps shouting turn left when there's clearly a wall. Starmer's the uptight dad trying to hold a dinner party during a house fire, while Rayner's the rebellious teenager blaring punk rock in the background. Neither of them knows where the car keys are, but they'll definitely blame each other for losing them. Katie Hopkins didn't just highlight the dysfunction, she practically made it a stage play. Labour, once a party with working-class backbone and a purpose, has turned into performance art with questionable lighting. What used to be bold, unapologetic passion has now become cosplay theatre. Starmer struts around in his off-the-rack Prime Minister suit like he bought it from the manager-in-training section at Debenhams, while Rayner does her best impression of rebellious icon with the political depth of a slogan on a coffee mug.
Worst of all, he's decided that we can pay for this. We're going to pay for the privilege of once again being ruled in many ways by Brussels. We're going to be coughing up to the EU budgets. It's absolutely absurd. It goes against what he said. He's turning this country once again into the orange ball chewing leather trust gimp. If I've got the right word.
Well, going back to...
of Brussels.
Hopkins went after them like a predator let loose in a paper zoo. Starmer's so-called forensic approach, it's like watching beige wallpaper teach a TED talk. His speeches have the emotional range of a breadstick. You expect insight, but get long-winded disclaimers and enough size to power a wind turbine. Every time he opens his mouth, you can feel a nation collectively reaching for the remote. Then there's Angela. Her contribution to political dialogue swings wildly between impassioned yelling and walkouts that feel more like tantrums than statements. It's less Che Guevara and more like Che Guevara's confused cousin who once skimmed a communist manifesto while waiting for a hair appointment. She delivers speeches like she's just discovered the word oppression and intends to use it in every sentence, regardless of context.
Here's the thing, Keir. I've had a thought that fixes a lot of your problems. So, you're looking to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, specifically Kyiv. I thought, why don't you get all the people that had a Ukraine flag on their social media profile? Obviously, they had to take down their NHS one and their LGBTQ one. to put up the Ukraine one. But those people, and the people who took in a Ukrainian into their homes like a little pet, just for Christmas. The people that are like, oh yeah, we've got one. Yeah, we've got a Ukrainian family. Yeah. We've got a Ukrainian family. Yeah, because we're a better kind of person. Yeah, it's just who we are. Maybe they should be the ones that put boots on the ground over in Ukraine.
And let's not forget Hopkins' sharpest observation. They're too busy bickering inside the house to notice the neighbourhood's on fire. Starmer is decluttering Labour like it's a Marie Kondo documentary, except Joy never existed in the first place. And Rayner? She changes political stances faster than a DJ switching tracks at a wedding. Together, they're less a leadership team and more a tragic reboot of The Thick of It, but without the wit, the charm, or the plot. Together, they're the political equivalent of decaf coffee, all the motion, none of the impact. And Hopkins didn't hold back. She said what the country was thinking. If these two are the future of Labour, I'm investing in canned goods.
Comrades, my name is Keir Starmer, and I'm here to fuck the foundations. When I became your Prime Minister, not only did I get new hair and glasses provided by a donor who now has full access to 10 Downing Street and my bedroom, we were promised 3 things. Number 1, we would be fully costed and fully funded. We're so fully funded and fully costed, we're essentially just like Katie Price, or HS2, or the public sector in Argentina pre-Milei, depending on your sense of humour. In order to make the £22 billion hole in the budget even worse, we have spunked a whole bunch of cash at train drivers and junior doctors. This guarantees 2 things. Number 1, they will vote Labour. Number 2, nurses and teachers will be on strike again by the...
Starmer, with his uncanny ability to make inspiration sound like a compliance seminar, tried rebranding Labour with all the excitement of a microwave instruction manual. Hopkins called him the human version of a tax return, necessary, boring and guaranteed to ruin your day. Rayner, who claims to be the voice of the working class, is so performative you'd think she was trapped in a political version of Love Island. She's passionate, yes, but about what exactly? Today it's education, tomorrow it's trade unions, the day after it's whatever she thinks will get her trending on X.
Now the political chameleons are crawling out from under their rocks, aren't they? The Prime Minister told you he gets it, which as far as I can tell means copying reform. Keir Starmer finished his muesli this morning and fired off a tweet using the language of his turquoise rivals. He said, "The Tories lost control of our borders and let net migration soar to record levels, undercutting hard-working Brits. I won't stand for it. I promise to restore control and cut migration, and I'm delivering with tough new measures." Well, I saw that tweet and it made me think of this.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
Hopkins zeroed in on the one thing they lack more than leadership: authenticity. Starmer's entire persona is a risk-managed hologram designed to offend no one and inspire even fewer. Rayner's is pure theatre, sound bites over strategy, drama over delivery. Hopkins said it best. They're like a band with no music, just fancy posters and an overpriced merch table. And don't even get started on their record. Under their watch, Labour managed to lose traditional voters, alienate youth, and confuse the middle class. That's not strategy. That's sabotage with extra steps. Hopkins pointed out that their biggest accomplishment so far is making people nostalgic for Ed Miliband. Yes, that Ed Miliband. Starmer can't even commit to a protest without looking like he's afraid someone might accidentally photograph him feeling an emotion. Rayner, on the other hand, runs toward protest like they're sponsored by Adidas and Anger. It's like watching an awkward dad and his chaotic niece trying to win over a pub crowd with karaoke.
Old Billy Big Bollocks, Keir Starmer, says he's prepared to make some unpopular decisions. But beware of this, it's a sleight of hand. Because we can all live with some unpopular decisions. It would be unpopular not to give 11 billion to Africa if you're a massive greenie. It would be unpopular with the doctors if you decided to say, actually, we can't afford to pay you more. You get more when you're a consultant, so just hang in there. It would be unpopular with his Muslim massive if you were to say, do you know what, if you've got more than one wife, we're going to tax you on the number of wives you have. Those things would be unpopular, but maybe they'd be quite reasonable or rational. What he means when he says unpopular is irrational, unreasonable, and targeted on the very people who are working hard, paying their taxes, and are squeezed the most by every other bastard doing bugger all. Okay,
Hopkins didn't just mock their policies, she decimated their aura. Starmer's idea of bold leadership is releasing a PowerPoint with mild suggestions and hoping no one notices it contradicts everything he said last week. Rayner's idea of statesmanship is tweeting like she's in a rap battle with the ghost of Margaret Thatcher. And, can we talk about their media presence? Starmer interviews like he's on trial for crimes against charisma. Rayner answers every question like she's just been personally insulted by the interviewer's hairstyle. Hopkins tore into their inability to communicate like functional humans, let alone leaders. According to her, you get more decisive answers from a magic 8-ball.
The mainstream aren't keen to carry into this week, which is the story of the non-English speaking Ukrainian bumboy that set fire to Keir Starmer's apartment, his home, his old car and all sorts of other things. Rumour has it the bumboy was recommended to Keir by Zelensky, who'd used him often and found his services to be very enjoyable.
Then there's the hypocrisy. Starmer loves to talk about transparency, unless it's about his actual opinions, in which case he turns into a political mime. Rayner rails against privilege, then shows up in tailored suits and treats Parliament like a personal theatre class. Hopkins exposed that contradiction like a wrecking ball through a cardboard set. What Katie did wasn't just roast, it was political performance art. She held up a mirror to Labour's leadership and forced everyone to admit the reflection looked like a budget BBC drama with no plot and bad lighting. She dragged them with so much accuracy it felt like a public service announcement from a sarcastic guardian angel.
Where Labour have finally decided to withdraw their support from their candidate in Rochdale, a gentleman called Azhar Ali. He was saying things that were frightfully popular with the Muslim massive up there and the Palestinian, pro-Palestinian mob he represents. Things like Jews were responsible for October the 9th and other wildly anti-Semitic stuff. He would have got elected for sure, but finally Keir Starmer thinks it might not do the PR of the Labour Party too much good, so they've pulled.
Let's not forget their grand strategy: say vague things, flip positions when questioned, and blame Tories for absolutely everything, including the weather, inflation, and probably why their printer doesn't work. Hopkins said what everyone else whispered at family dinners. They're not leading, they're loitering with spreadsheets. Rayner talks about worker rights like she invented employment. Starmer talks about values like he found them in a cereal box. Hopkins, gleefully unfiltered, laughed in the face of their new Labour vision, calling it reheated nonsense served with a sprinkle of elite guilt and a side of student union energy. It's not that people disagree with everything they say. It's that they say nothing with such conviction you start to wonder if they're AI generated. Hopkins highlighted that their greatest skill is surviving headlines without ever actually doing anything. It's like playing dodgeball with public expectation and losing.
Keir Starmer has been in Italy with Meloni. So you've got a left-wing, radical left-wing human rights guy over with what would be labelled as far-right Meloni in Italy. Now, I appreciate this is a bit of excellent communication work by Keir's communication team. For that, they should be commended, but for lying to the British people, they share part of that odious guilt of not doing what you are appearing.
Katie closed the metaphorical casket on their credibility by comparing them to a flat-pack government from IKEA. All the parts are there, but the instructions are in Swedish, the screws are missing, and nobody can find the Allen key. In short, good luck assembling that mess. So here we are. Starmer, the man who leads with the enthusiasm of lukewarm soup. Rayner, the rebel without a clear PowerPoint. Together, they're trying to convince Britain that this is the team to revive Labour. Hopkins looked at that duo and responded the only way anyone should, with laughter, a raised eyebrow, and a very loud no.
But the cost of living crisis here in the UK is completely out of control. Prices are now rising faster than at any time in history. Energy prices are crippling ordinary homeowners, and wages don't have a chance of keeping up with inflation. And the best advice, it seems, coming from the Tory government, that the best thing they can offer is maybe you should work a bit harder, or maybe you should budget a bit better, or definitely don't ask for a pay rise because that's not going to help. Little measures targeted at the people who are struggling the most are not what we need right now.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about left or right. It's about leaders who can stand for something without collapsing under the weight of their own contradictions. Starmer and Rayner are less a dream team and more a slow-mo comedy sketch in a burning pub. And as Katie Hopkins walked off stage, leaving scorched earth and confused Labour aides in her wake, one thing became crystal clear. If this is the best Labour has, the Tory party could run a lettuce in a suit and still win a majority. Stay tuned. The political roast has just begun.